Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar from Cyber. The topic today is how can SME fulfill cybersecurity regulation, especially NIS2, with a strict budget. And we are thrilled to have you today. And my name is Carol. I'm marketing manager at Cyber, and I'm going to be one of your hosts today. So before we start, just a quick note. What's going to happen during this event is you will have the chat box where you can leave your questions anytime you like. We will address that in the Q&A session at the end. And today's event is being recorded. And if you wish to have a recording shared with you later, please also drop your emails in the chat as well so we can follow up. And during this presentations from our speaker, just be aware of there's going to be some polls popping up just so we can get to know more about you and what you expect to get out from this session. So really appreciate your inputs there. And so the next thing I would like to introduce Henrik, our moderator today, to walk you through the agenda, as well as introduce our speaker, Christophe. So over to you, Henrik.
Thank you so much, Carol, and nice to meet you, everyone. I'm Henrik. I'm working with the sales here at Cyber. So the agenda for today is we're going through now the welcome and the intro, and Christophe will go through the cybersecurity policy for SMEs. We'll look at how to manage the regulatory burden and give an overview of NIS2. The areas where I think is going to be very, very interesting in general is really how to position cybersecurity and make sure that you can leverage budgets more effectively. We have a very nice case study from a French energy company, and we're going to look into that. And Christophe is also going to give you some very nice executive buy-ins examples and making sure that you can leverage those as well. And we'll end with a Q&A. And as Carol said, we're going to have some polls throughout the presentation as well. And yeah, we look forward to the engagement and an engaging conversation with you all. So with that, we can go to the next slide. And I'm very happy to introduce Christophe. Christophe is a CIO. He has over 20 years of leadership experience. He's been working with IT, cybersecurity, and he's been supporting the digital transformation. And he's also led a lot of interesting programs, including ISO 27001 and GDPR alignments. And in his current role, he's working a lot with putting in place an overall cybersecurity strategy with the right toolings in place. And that company has now been able to raise over 200 million in capital. And security and compliance are a trust driver for these investors as well in order to get the right buy-in. Christophe, welcome. We're looking forward to the conversation.
Thank you, Henrik, for the great introduction. So let's start with first poll. We'd like to have more information about your role on compliance. So when it comes to cybersecurity regulations in your SME, which lens do you mostly operate from, if you can answer, depending on your specific attributes and profile? Are you executive board member, more deep into IT and cybersecurity? Fond of risk and compliance, or do you have a mixed role or overall inside your company? We'll let you answer.
There seems to be a mix of responses, Christophe.
Yeah, but I can see we have a lot of risk and compliance guys.
Yes.
So today I will talk about risk and compliance. So of course you're fortunate to get here, and about finance as well, and a bit cybersecurity, but really the basics. Okay, so let's move on. I will start with an introduction with a reminder. I take the assumption, even if you work for SME, you're supposed to have an existing IT charter. And usually inside your IT charter, you should have cybersecurity related principles. So here I've put the main topics you should cover about cybersecurity policy. So usually you should define the objective of your cybersecurity approach and politics, and the scope, especially if you have a group with some branches, you should consider covering every entity of your group, and to involve your executive management and country manager to take cybersecurity as something quite serious. The core part of your document should detail security rules. So how do you manage the identity and credentials, for instance? How do you manage your backups, your physical security, and so on? Your security management should be described, role, responsibilities, the different committees, if so, and how you handle the situation in case in crisis as an organization. And the last topic is about measuring your performance and facing some audits, and how you track your progress about cybersecurity, because it's a momentum, it's a continuous momentum with new trends and new type of attacks. Okay, so here are the basics. Now we'll dig a bit deeper. So in this table, I've summarized for you on the horizontal axis the 10 usual categories of cybersecurity threats. And you should be aware that you could be attacked and exposed to these different categories of cybersecurity risks. And on the other axis, I've mapped the usual solution you should put in place or buy to cover these different risks. Said that, the most important thing is to, at the beginning of your IT organization build, to make an objective audit of your level of maturity about cybersecurity, and to consider quick risk analysis and prioritize from where you are the most exposed. Is it account hacking, because you have an history about that with your developers, for instance? Is it virus and worms, because your employees have route in the past some worms via the mobile phones, for instance? Or you expose potentially to ransomware, or so on. Okay, so it's the first level of quick risk analysis you could make as a small team inside your company, where not yet have the level of regulation obligations. Okay. Second poll for you, Henrik.
Yes. So the first one here, or the second one, the second poll is really around the top barriers for compliance readiness. So if you look at your organization, what do you believe are the greatest barrier to meet NIS2 requirements on a strict budget? Is it regulatory complexity with unclear scope or requirements? Is it a limited budget, resource, meaning competing priorities, a lack of executive buy-in, or even awareness around cybersecurity? Third-party or supply chain risks, or the workforce and skill gap in general. So let's see what you believe are the key. Yeah, we're getting the budget and resources, competing priorities, as well as the workforce skill gap. A bit of exec buy-in, and also, yeah, there seems to be a dominant towards the limited budget and resources, Christophe.
I will try to give you some insight about that today, so we are here for that.
Yeah, but we also have the exec buy-in is also there, and awareness, I guess, right?
Yeah, I will cover this as a compliment at the end. Okay,
Yep.
so let's move on. Quick reminder about regulations at European level. You can see that European institutions are very prolific as creating new regulations. I'd say for good and bad reasons, it depends. The first significant one, which had a very large scope, was GDPR. I suppose you were already hit by this one in the past. And now we are moving on with NIS2, which has some similarities, but focus more about cybersecurity, risk management, and preventing such risks. And the scope of entities is a bit more specific. We focus now on what we call critical business areas. I will come later on this definition. And you can see in the upcoming years, European institutions will continue to push about cybersecurity protection, with DORA for financial institutions, with CRA for the materials and IoT components providers. So indirectly, you could be impacted by CRA with your providers. And afterwards, you will have MR, so machine regulations, which is more about safety and IA usage inside the products. And RED, which is very, let's say, tiny and specific to radio equipments. So now today we will focus more on NIS because the effort and burden with NIS is really comparable to GDPR 1. And just a reminder about regulations and directives in Europe. The definition of a regulation is that it's a rule which is directly applicable to the countries without additional work. It was the case of GDPR. And NIS2 is a directive. So NIS2 takes a bit more time because it should be applied and integrated in the existing laws inside each country. Okay, so that's why you need a bit more. You have a bit more time in front of you for this implementation. If we have a quick look to NIS2, I've tried to make a summary of what it is. So NIS2 for Network and Information System, version 2. And as I said before, it focuses about cybersecurity protection for the economic and administrative entities in Europe. So it's more about entities dealing with commodities, utilities, energy, manufacturing. But recently, they expanded the scope to administrative services like postal services, for instance. And they made a classification in two sets. The essential entities, when you have all the eligibility criteria and you will have to implement all NIS2. And the important entities, which is a subset of entities with less expectation, let's say. And compared to NIS2, they put a bit more pressure because probably you didn't heard about NIS2 because I think no one has applied it because it was undercover. NIS2 is more put more pressure as there are stricter cyber reporting requirements at country agencies level, and the timelines are shortened in case of cybersecurity incident in your company. And the controlling and fines are much higher than in the past, and you can compare them to GDPR because it's 10 million or 2% of your overall turnover. On top of that, now the management bodies of your company should be aware that they are personally accountable in case of major breach. And if I move on to the timelines, you can see that it was adopted in 2021 by Europe and validated in France, but in other countries in October 2024. And now we are in the middle of the per country validation and per country applicability to the SMEs and different companies which are in scope. So it's the good timing to start from now to consider your NIS2 alignment. It's not too early, it's not too late. You still have time to make it. You can see the mean duration we estimate for that is 4 months. So you can manage it as a small project inside your IT and organization and your company, and get accompanied by specialized consulting companies for that. Quick overview of the minimum requirements you should align, just to give you a flavor. So you can see we have 10 topics, which has really a different granularity. Number 9 is multi-factor authentication. It's very basic. It's something probably you already have, so no effort on this one, for instance. But to put in place a cybersecurity serious risk assessment or business continuity plan inside a SME can be a big effort at your team level. So you should consider already having a quick first review of the expectations of NIS2, and to already tag what you should internally implement and what you should delegate to a consulting company, for instance. And on the right side of this page, I've put the level of progress country per country. So you can see it's very different given where you are located. It's a status of last year. Probably it has progressed. Not really in France, but in other countries possibly. Third poll.
So the third poll.
Yeah.
So let's do a budget reality check. So if we think about your organization's annual IT budget, how much of that is currently allocated to cybersecurity? Is it less than 5%, which is then a minimal investment? Between 5 to 10, that means you can do like basic compliance and protection. 10 to 20%, that means that you start balancing between compliance and resilience. And if you do more than 20%, you actually have cybersecurity as a priority investment. So this one would be interesting to see how you are allocating resources. We have one less than 5% or between 5 and 10, less than 5%. Yeah, I think we see most people are, yeah, we have one 10 to 20%, but the majority, or two, okay, there are the thirds, 2 are under 5%, 2 are sort of between 5 and 10, and then we have 10 to 20%.
Yeah, so three sets with a big equilibrium. I will come back to these estimates, but definitely less than 5% is crazy. So let's move on. Here I present you my own IT budget process to set up a new budget when I join a new company or update or need to update a budget in IT organization. So first approach is to collect market data in your country and your area. So what I call market data is economic data, for instance, the current level of inflation. What is the trend about buying materials or softwares? Or the price higher than 3 years ago, or is it going lower, and so on. And you should as well find on internet some usual ratios you could use to split your different cost lines inside your budget, which is supposed to be shared between softwares, hardware, wages, cybersecurity, and so on. Okay. Second step is to refine these numbers and the first assumptions you have about your budget given your industry. Of course, you have different numbers and ratios and standards if you are in financial institution, or if you are in a construction business, for instance. Okay. Next step is to refine as well with your current infrastructure. Are you very cloudified, or you do you operate 2 or 3 different data centers? So of course, the distribution of cost will not be the same between software and hardware and internal people and subcontractors, depending on these different assumptions. Number 4 is what is your ability to recruit new people inside your company? Are you in a growth trend, so you can easily hire qualified people, or is it tricky? Do you need to subcontract more things? It depends of your history and situation. And number 5 is the history, but specific to your incident and cybersecurity history. And depending on your conclusion in this criteria, you should allocate more or less budget to your cybersecurity line. Okay. On top of that, we have usual trends about cybersecurity. So this year, the trend is a lot about smishing, phishing, and a bit ransomware, which are the major risk for any SME in France and probably in overall Europe, I guess. And at the end of this small process, you have a first draft of budget you are able to present and justify to your executive board. And don't forget to consider the security and compliance aspects, especially compliance. Sometimes it's overlooked. So I will come back with some assumptions just after. Okay. So first step is to grab market data. So here are the market data I used to use. So it's specific to my SME situation in France, but I think it's easy to transpose to your country and own situation. So usually a good IT budget should be between 3 and 8% of the overall company turnover. If you do less, probably your IT services will not be very qualitative. So I pay attention to that. And currently, after the COVID, it's much better to tend to have 5%, in fact. Okay. Your budget should include investments as well. So investment is building projects. So sometimes the projects budgets are dedicated to business departments. Sometimes everything is covered by the IT. It depends. So you should refine given that. And it should cover the run cost to operate your solutions and your workforce wages, of course. A subset of that should be allocated to cybersecurity and security overall. And usually what we propose is to have a budget between 5 and 10% of your IT budget. So when you answered, we had a third people which was in this range, and it's good. More sometimes, especially if you are very exposed dealing with retail business or financial institutions, you should add a bit more budget for cybersecurity. Less than 5% is really not reasonable at all. I'm pretty sure that less than 5% you will be exposed to phishing, scams, and ransomware on a very regular basis if you don't monitor such risks. And on top of that, you have now to consider more and more the regulatory aspects. So what I used to do is to, by default, allocate now 20% of my cybersecurity budget to regulatory aspects. And I include in that the pen testing as well. So everything about audit and regulations account for 20% of my cybersecurity budget. And based on my own experience and observations, usually the cost per user for security in the workstation is 30%. So if you need to share with your executive board some key data, you can propose such reference data. which works for me. So probably you will have to challenge it at your level, but it could be a good start if you have nothing where to start with that. And important point, your cybersecurity budget can have a big variance depending on your people organization. For example, if your security operations center in your IT organization is fully internal, I've put the assumption of 3 FTE. You could make an optimization by delegating to SOC as a service with 2 contractors with an external company to monitor your cyber security, and keep only 1 people in your team, internal team, to cover these reviews. And you can optimize a bit more with AI-based SOC and tools, and you can reduce a bit your FTE if you are really on budget constraints in this area. Okay, but if it's AI-based, you will have to compensate by buying a software solution with AI. So you have to put into the balance the different costs and to see what is the best choice. Of course, in France, like as hiring people is very high price, we systematically compare with softwares because it has a value. But in countries where you have less state cost burden, you can challenge such choices. So I can mention that Cypro covers SOC as a service proposals if you need, and pen testing as well. So you can share your services between internal and external folks as you wish. Now let's take an example. So today we'll consider SME based in France, which has 300 people. And it's an energy producer, and their annual turnover is approximately 200 million euros. Okay, so good turnover anyway. The company strategy is cloud first, so you should consider that this company is cloudified at 90%. So it's a new key assumption you take to build your budget, as I said before. And the approach is to have the IT budget the most minimalist as possible. So in this example, I take the lowest ratios you should consider. So 3% of 200 million is 6 million. So 6 million is supposed to be your target budget to operate all your IT services, okay? From there, you take 5% of 6 million. So you end up with 0.3 million euros dedicated to cybersecurity audit compliance. And if I come back to my previous assumption, what I used to do is to allocate 20% of this amount to audit and compliance specifically, so 60,000 euros. And then I split this in 2 parts. One part for pen testing. So usually I conduct 2 to 4 pen tests over 1 year. And the rest is reserved for NIS alignment right now because it's the current need I have in this area. Okay. So if we take the NIS criteria, this company should be considered as essential entity. So it has to implement everything about NIS, unfortunately. Why? Because they deal with energy. So it's a critical area. The workforce is over 250 and their turnover is over 50 million euros. This is the main criteria to classify you in NIS2 positioning as essential entity or important entity. Now, if I take my cybersecurity budget and I break down it just to show up what we operate in this company at the moment and which services are covered faced to the different threats we had. you can see as the company is really highly cloudified, it's usually a price per user or price per machine instead of one-off price for all these services. And you can see well, the numbers are not really realistic because these prices are before negotiation. So if you are a good negotiator, you could end up with unit prices lower from 10 to 30% possibly. But the ratios are really the one I use in my budget. So you can see I allocate almost a third of my cybersecurity budget to XDR, EDR solution because I use costly IA1. That's why. But what I input as investment in this solution is less salary for an additional FTE I don't need, in fact. So this is how I can optimize my software solution versus my internal team headcount. Okay, and you can see that backup, which is very important to fight against ransomware, is not so costly. It's less than 10% of my budget. So it's really pity if you don't consider putting your SME safe just with a backup. It's very basic, easy going, and not so costly.
It's just,
and the last,
Christophe, it's just interesting to see that you put a lot of the effort on the EDR, XDR element. It's almost a third of the total budget. So you want to elaborate a bit more why that bucket is so heavy?
Yeah, it's heavy because I've bought very advanced solutions, which is quite costly, to avoid hiring an additional guy in my SOC. So what I invest in the XDR solution, I gain it as wages lines, you know, and as in France is very high price because you know how we are positioned about tax. We try to optimize the headcount in France, in fact.
Yeah. And I think what you're not adding here, the only thing that is coming on top, I guess, is the FTE cost as well on top of this, right? This is just the tooling cost.
Yeah, I haven't shared it here, but you should consider to cover my cybersecurity effort with this budget. On top of that, I add 1.5 headcount.
Perfect.
At French price.
At French price.
So something like 120,000 euros, roughly, something like this. To be very explicit. And the last line, is, as I said, is dedicated to pen test, compliance, and NIS2, so on. So I come back to the numbers and assumptions I've shared before. Okay, so just an example, which is really realistic with what I do. It's an inspiration for you. Of course, you should not copy paste, but adapt to your specific context. My last page for today is this conclusion about executive buy-in. So here are my key recommendation about how to get executive people interested by this topic. First of all, start very early. So even if you saw NIS2 could be applicable in your country in 2 years, I recommend to start now. On my side, I've started in January already, just to do kind of heads up to my executive board and tell them, one day we'll talk about this. And in the meantime, what I suggest you to do is to quickly make a first check about NIS2 structuration and see and qualify if you are EE or IE category, and have a look to the different expectation given your situation. And you can start already to grab a couple of offers from service providers, because of course I don't want to give this job to my internal team. I have more interesting things to do, more operational. So on my shows, it will be to delegate a lot NIS2 alignment to an external consulting company. With your executive board, you should insist on their own responsibilities. Put emphasis on their personal responsibilities in case of major breach, and the risk which is not only financial, finally, it could be reputational as well. We have some telco companies in France which has to pay fines for GDPR in the past. The amounts were not so much, less than 1 million. So at their level, it was nothing, but very bad for their reputation. So usually it's something that talks to a CEO. And how to plan this mini project? I propose you to split this in two parts, one for 2024 and one for the next year. What I will do on my own is to do the first part of gap analysis and framing with an external company, how to put in place NIS2 alignment with a fixed contract. So in France, my estimate is between 13 and 24k euros. This is realistic. Huh? This is the offers that I've received. So big variance. So you have to consider the quality of deliverables inside the proposal. And what I will do next year, I will implement on T&M basis the holes I have in my organization, and what I need to complete, especially on my side, is the reporting part, which is not good. So I already know I will have to make a specific effort to build proper reports to the government agencies on next year. And in France, the daily rate is 1,300 euros per day. So we are all these numbers and KSF. I hope it will help you to align properly your SME and be successful.
This is perfect. So as a follow-up here, we have, first of all, we're going to conclude with Christophe, but let's just do this quick poll around what topics you would like us to cover in our upcoming webinar. We have themes like deep dive into NIS2 compliance steps, board responsibilities and governance under NIS2, third-party and supply chain risk management, incident response and crisis simulations, practical tooling and implementation best practices, sector-specific focuses, different verticals, or other areas. Yeah, I think we're starting to see some really good feedback here. Excellent. So we can go to the Q&A. We had a few questions coming in here as well, and I also had Christophe, for you. What I've seen in some of the organizations I've worked with, and you had that as one of the lines, is around the security awareness piece. I see no matter how much tooling and processes you put in place, the employees are quite often the weakest link, or and also the last line of defense, because that's where you refer to, like the smishing attacks, for example, right?
Yeah, correct.
It's actually the user who's acting on something. So what's your take on that, if you will, looking at how?
Yeah, so what I've observed at my level and in my company as well is that you're right, it's the employees are really the first exposed roles and people. And usually in SME, one problem is that they mix up the personal and professional usage of their devices, phones, and softwares. It's really a bad thing. It's too easy. So if you do business with WhatsApp, you are dead, really. Yeah. So what you have to do first is to close this authorization and to make some rigorous device management. First, it's really the basis. Just after putting in place an antivirus. Then, as security and cybersecurity is usually very boring for business people, you should make it fun as much as you can. So in my current company, I've built a platform. I can name it. It's named Riot. It's a French American company, which makes a platform with a tiny person which talk on your door inside Teams and say, hello, do you want to make an e-learning session today about phishing or password security or so on? And it works, in fact. I have a very good participation rate. And when we conduct some questionnaire about it, the rate of we have a very good return about that, more than 90%. So you have to make it as fun as possible, using tools, a way of presenting things, saying that it's serious, but you should not be serious in your communication, not too much.
It's a very good topic you put up there, right? And I think the one challenge I also see, what I've seen with a lot of organizations, is if you think about users in general, is that first we have the whole digitalization era, that everything we do is sort of digitalized right now, which means you almost get information overload as an end user, right? And then you also have the other element, which is there is this blur between your private life and the the corporate life, right? And also, how do you actually create efficiencies for an end user while making them secure? Is that really then the best way to make them lock out their personal life and then have them only? Is it the 2-device strategy, like a personal and a corporate device, that is the way forward, or?
On our side, we are very strict about the software and device usage. You could be more flexible. It depends of the mindset of the people you have in front of you and their level of rigor. In France, we are late in, so if you're not very restrictive, it's end of game.
But it's like what they say, what Charles de Gaulle used to say, right? How do you rule a country with more than 300 types of cheese? So,
but it has to be, I insist, it has to be fun to pass properly the message, or you will have bigger resistance. So
it's like the gamification. I think it might be one way to look at it, right? Like
it's very important. It's very important.
Make it more interactive and all that.
Even for phishing campaigns, so with the same platform, we conduct continuous phishing test with all our users, and even if they have bad result and taken by your phishing test, we make it fun and say, "Oh, it's not so. It was just a test. Don't bother." We try to make it easy for them.
But it makes them start to think. That's the key objective, right? So.
Yeah.
So Solomon, I also raised the question around when we talked about the EDR XDR element there, and I think he also came with a comment around how do you relate this to layering security, like the onion approach, if you will, to different types of toolings.
Yeah, if you're interested, I've made a detailed paper on LinkedIn about that 2 months ago. What I used to do, my cybersecurity risk management is the same that what we call the reason Swiss cheese plates. It's I've stolen this to aeronautics. It's a risk management approach where you have a pile of Swiss cheese layers. And one layer is the typology of risk. So it fits with the table I've shared with you today with the 10 categories. So you should consider you have 10 layers. And the concept is that in each layer, you have different holes, but not at the same place. And you are at risk when the holes aligns between different plates. And then the attack gets through and you are exposed. So what I do kind of mapping with my known holes, and I tried to disalign my protections. How I do that? I'm very heterogeneous about the software editors and software solution I use. So I buy the XDR from one software editor. I buy the antivirus from one another. I do my I don't know, my account IAM strategy with another one, you see. And if you are heterogeneous on your IS, you reduce your security risk, in fact. If you are too homogeneous, I've worked in companies, they boot everything IBM.
Yeah.
To me, it's not a good strategy. Except if you are in big systems, the old way of making IT is the different approach, but it's less exposed. Today I talk about internet, modern solutions. For modern solutions, definitely you should be very heterogeneous. So the counterpart of that is that you have different skills inside your team to grab. So you should be heterogeneous, but not too much. You see.
But I really love that approach, because what I've seen a lot is, if you look at some of the larger security vendors, for example, they're saying, hey, we now have, it's a platform play, which they like to call it, right? That you have to make a choice and then you stay and you're stuck with that vendor's choice. It's like IBM. People used to say you don't get fired for buying Cisco, for example, back in the day. And now but even now the pure play security vendors also provide bigger portfolios, and it becomes much more a platform play. But I do see that the value in what you're saying, that there are toolings, for example, that are unique in what they do in certain areas, but then that also comes then, I guess, with a cost of procuring it differently. And
in the negotiation, you have to resist to your vendors. Even if you like them, they always come back with a new module which works very well. For instance, my XDR provider shown up in April and told to me, "Oh, I have a new DMARC module. I would like to sell it to you at the best price," and blah 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 blah. And I said, "No, stop there. I already have a dedicated DMARC service provider. I will not change him, because I want to stay heterogeneous." That's my strategy. You see?
I see that for sure. And but with the cloudification though, and the way moving into the cloud, you also see the cloud vendors. I mean, they normally also they only take responsibility that far in terms of security tooling. You're still responsible for securing your data and your information, right?
A generic remark is that vendors are usually very good in some areas, but not so good in others. So even if they expand the product, sometimes you don't have to consider it and stay to their core expertise. For instance, I consider that Oracle is very good for database, but not so good in ERP, for instance. That's my own opinion. Huh? You can challenge it.
No, I'm not disputing there. So this is a really good conversation.
Just an example.
Yeah, exactly. Super. I think we're out of the questions, and Carol shared the link to your LinkedIn profile, Chris, so people
don't hesitate to contact me.
Yeah, they can get the data. Thank you so much, Chris, for sharing your expertise, and thank you to all of you for participating in both the poll and the discussion. I hope you found it useful. And if you also like to go deeper, Cypro, apart from also offering the SOC as a service offerings, we also do free NIS2 gap pre-assessment tools. So please don't hesitate to reach out to us. And we can also open up the floor. If there are any other questions, please feel free to raise now.
Thank you, everyone.
No, thank you so much.
Thank you a lot.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Henrik. Great stuff.
Thank you.